Doug because he knows.
The
No.
current tree removal budget is $1,200. That will remove one tree.
Yeah.
Right, small one.
And you know what?
Not even a big one, Doug, or Ron.
And you know what else?
How many trees need to go?
He can't do it. He's got too much already.
Or more.
Okay,
But we need a manager, and that's what a sexton does, is manage.
So I just made the motion that we just advertise for a sexton.
And I
okay,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, well, set, public comment. Thank you for being patient. Go ahead, Jean, go ahead.
I appreciate the annual thoughtful consideration of the Sheboygan Humane Society. I too love puppies. They're sitting on $500,000. They had $80,000 of revenue that they didn't spend last year. They had $200,000 that came in particularly for the services of collecting up stray animals, and they spent less than $50,000 of it. They get a D on Charity Navigator. You can ask Ron, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't get 5 or 6 solicitations for nonprofits. I don't do any of that without looking at financials first. I don't care what financials they gave you, I doubt that they lied on their tax return, and the tax return is very clear. They have a lot more money coming in for picking up stray animals than they're spending. Thank you.
Jan.
Next.
Yep, go ahead, Jay. Yes, thank you.
First of all, Mike,
Yes, sir.
and the board, I want to thank you for sharing with us all this information. I know it wasn't easy. I know there's some rough spots to work through in terms of getting the right information out of the right folder, whatever, to display that. But I think this really helps us understand what's going on. And it allows us to see firsthand what you already know, which we rarely are able to see. So I think what you've done here, we need to continue and build on it. And see what, make it as best we can, continuous improvement. For the FOIA, I'm not gonna get in the middle of it. What I wanna say is there's gotta be just like the library, they've got index cards. You know exactly where the book is. You go through a set of prompts, and you figure out it's this number, it's in this aisle, this is where I go to get it. FOIA could be just the same thing. You gotta find out if we're gonna get somebody to help us with a process that you can, basically, when you have a record, you put some sort of characterization on that record that's easy to file it, it's easy to respond and see it. Then no one's got to even look for it. You have someone come in here and they get at the computer, find their own documents. If it's confidential, you put it in one folder, someone goes through those, make sure it really is confidential, and then it goes back into the regular folder at the end of the day. I'm oversimplifying, but this thing can be done where you don't have to spend a lot of money. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Public comment? Yes, sir. The other Pat McGinnis.
Yes. The one that doesn't.
I got to tell what happened. I'm sorry. I saw a Michigan State University Facebook page, and a Pat McGinnis went on and on and on about how Kenneth Walker from Michigan State got screwed because in Hutchinson, I go, Pat McGinnis is a Michigan fan. I didn't know it was a different Pat McGinnis. All day long I've been thinking about it. I'm sorry, that's 30 seconds of your public comment.
First, I'd like to thank Janet for mentioning Pearl Harbor. My dad joined in 1939 in the U.S. Navy. He was at Pearl Harbor
God bless you.
during the attack. He was on the USS Henley, and he served a total of 20 years. And it's nice that some people remember. A lot of people, Bob can attest to this, have given a lot for this country and don't seek any reward. As far as the comments on the charging stations, my biggest concern with the charging station is I appreciate the desire to attract new people to downtown, but there's nothing that I've heard that will prohibit local residences from using it to charge the car rather than doing it at home. And for that reason, I think more guidance needs to be indicated.
Thank you.
That's it.
I promise to be brief. I'm to pay the firefighters that 50 cents an hour. To every member of the fire department, if that's all they get is the 50 cents for every hour that they've worked, if it amounts to a couple of $100 in a year, they can buy some base layer clothing with it. Or it's more for the gesture than it is the dollar amount. So just something to think about. There was mention tonight of a retention policy in 45 days, and then, you know, as I read the FOIA policy, there's a mention in there about the FOIA coordinator supposedly monitoring and deleting things like junk mail. All comes back around. Mike, you're gonna be mad at me, but I'm gonna use your comments against you about your phone call. You know that I've previously said that this office needs to be a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. You've just proved it by taking a call at 4:49 about township business. Ties into my next comment. There's a real irony in arguing about the nuances, the minute details, and the interpretation of language of a township policy that you guys are blatantly in violation of. You say you don't have the resources or the manpower, but it's because you choose not to hire an office administrator that is already budgeted. So you can't have it both ways. You either have a manpower shortage, you have a budgetary issue, or you don't. MCL 15236 says, and your township policy mirrors the fact that you designate the office administrator as the FOIA coordinator. You don't have an office administrator. You cannot be compliant with your own policy. The rest of this discussion is moot. You cannot, without amending the policy, reassign the duties just because you said you did. You're not compliant. Fix it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Public comment? Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Board comments? Mr. Kramer?
I'll wait.
Wait, Ken? I have one thing that I've been milling. This is the first, believe it or not, this is the longest meeting I've ever been in.
Well, we got a lot of work
But
done.
I gotta tell you, it's the first meeting in quite a while when my stomach wasn't in knots. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I think I figured out what's been bothering me, and this our lack of communication is not so much, probably as board members, but also as human beings. And I look out and I appreciate when people come into my office or they call me. I had a friend from down, now he's a friend, but he stopped in from downstate, he said, do you really have an open door policy? I said, absolutely. I think it makes a big difference. I mean, Janet, I'm not gonna pick the fly poop out of the pepper, but for you to sit down with Dawn before this meeting would have saved not only time, but it would have a lot of effort. I mean, it was a lot of effort on your part. We did talk about the minutes before, and, you know, we agreed that they needed to be fixed. I would welcome anybody to contact any board member and start communicating. We need to start communicating better. Bob and I talk quite a bit, Dawn and I talk every day, but.
It's not always friendly, but it works.
But it works, and I wanna stress that we are growing, and we have a lot of, I attributed the stress and trials that we had during the first sewer efforts. A lot of that stress I attributed to growing pains. And I do partly on this because I see all of the good things that are still happening and all of the good things that are to come. But I don't think we're ever gonna get past our own, you know, inequities, our own feelings if we don't start communicating. I wanna emphasize that every one of us is available to the community and to each other for whatever we need. If there's something that we need, if you feel I need advice on, then I respect that. I had a couple of gentlemen come in and talk to me today, and I thought that was exactly where I was gonna go tonight with this, that we need to start talking. And I would just appreciate it. And if I always consider myself a facilitator in this job. And I've been, the last 6 months, feeling like I'm failing miserably because it just isn't working. But I think it's always been maybe the elephant in the room too, that we need to talk to each other and we need to do it with as much candor and honesty and frequency as possible. Mr. Kramer?
I just wanted to plant a seed if you wouldn't mind, especially after tonight's meeting. We come in here and, you know, I've been coming to meeting, what, five years? We are so busy taking care of the township day to day. I think we could look forward more. So, in other words, we come in here and we take care of the here and now. So I want to ask you this question, I don't want an answer. I just want you to think about it. What do you want Tuscarora Township to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? We got the Parks Commission with that wonderful 5-year plan that's worked well. We have the 10-year document, the Planning Commission. We have
DDA's.
DDA plan, and look what it's got us. But it's not been rolled into one. It's not been wrapped into one. It's called vision. And I would just like for you to think about some way that we could talk about, I hate the word workshop, but I guess I gotta use it, on a vision. What do we want us, our neighborhood, what do our neighbors want us, what do our citizens want us to be in 5 years, 10 years? We have real problems. And no one would ever think 5 years ago or 10 years ago that we were gonna have a problem with affordable housing. And we have a huge problem right now for our workers with affordable housing. And, you know, what do we want to look like here, there, and everywhere? You know, what, that wonderful streetscape could just be a first step if we had a vision, not only of the board, but by the community. So everybody would have to be involved, the Planning Commission, the Parks Commission, and especially the general public. And it's a very hard thing. I've worked on strategic plans in the past. It's extremely difficult. It's very painful. But even if you don't finish your plan, if you just had a vision that we could all kind of work towards, instead of just coming in here and putting out fires. Because that's where the DDA got us, right? You know, they didn't have to put out the fires, and look what they did for us. So we know a vision and strategic planning works. So just think about it. You don't have to do it next month or the month after, it's just like. And I will be sending you a straw man document, but I did want to get some opinions, if you don't mind, from the Planning Commission people first, because they do this all the time. And after I get their input, I'd like to send you just a document to consider. And it won't be a motion, it won't be an action.
Any more word on when they might do the groundbreaking for the VA clinic?
No, I'm glad you asked that. He told me that the VA just started with their formal committee. And I will send out, as soon as he tells me that they're gonna shovel dirt, I'll send it out. And no word on new business yet. I'll send it.
Okay. Don, anything? No, sir? Okay. Motion to adjourn. Thank you very much, people. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Take care.
Make sure you
Drive
take your
careful.
sleeping bags and your pillows with you.